Today, I'm really excited to have Angelika on this podcast with me. We're going to talk about non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs. Angelika's been on them for what seems like a lifetime, but with the Paddison Program, she's now gotten off them and feels tremendous. So this is going to be a feel-good story. She's all the way originally from Germany, but now has lived most of her life in Canada. Welcome, Angelika.
Welcome. Thank you. Thanks for having me. I just wanted to say before I start this talk that I'm eternally grateful to you for sharing your story, because if it hadn't been for you, I would not be in the position that I am, that is to be off my anti-inflammatories and to feel absolutely fantastic. So thank you so much.
Oh, you're very welcome. And it's for, wonderful feel-good moments like that and being able to help people that Melissa, my wife, originally said to me, look, if we can only just help one person by sharing our story, then it will be worth it. And we had all these notes that we'd put together, like all these sort of scattering of little workbooks and journals and Excel spreadsheets of body pain level scoring and all sorts of stuff. And we'd had a collection of all of the articles that we'd used to justify the direction that we'd gone. And so it was just a matter of putting it together and then seeing if other people benefited. And sure enough, that began, what's been an incredible ride of hearing wonderful news frequently, which is certainly, it's a wonderful situation to be in where you can help other people. And let's take nothing away from all the work that you've had to do, which is to actually implement the information, because so many people skim across a website and see that they can do these things and choose not to. So, you can take a huge amount of responsibility and credit for what you've been able to achieve, which we'll now hear about. So tell us when you got diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis, when?
So I got diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis in 2001, and I was put on Vioxx first, and that was taken off the market, and then put on Celebrex, and it didn't really do anything much for me. The doctor said I should be on it for a few months because it may not work right away, which is what I did, but nevertheless, it really didn't help. And I also had a synovial cyst in the back of my knee, and that was aspirated about 3 times and injected with cortisone, and that did help. And whenever I had the cortisone injected, all the pains in my body went, and that was good for about a month. And after the 3rd time, he said, I can't do it anymore. The next time it blows up, you're going to have surgery. And that wasn't in my books. I wasn't going to have anybody touch me, give me medication or touch me with a knife. Yeah. So then that rheumatologist retired, and my GP started taking care of me. Initially, when I was diagnosed, my CRP was 89.
Wow, that's a huge CRP. Mine only ever got as high as 55, which is still very, very high given that it's meant to be below 5. But 89, that's probably in the top 10% bracket for cases that I see.
I was very stiff. I had a total stiffness all over my body. And I had pain in my feet and in my hands mostly. And initially I had it in every joint in my body except my elbows and my hips. I had pains in right from my neck, my jaw, my neck, all the way down to my toes, my ankles, my toes, but I never had any pain in my hips or in my elbows all those years that I've had it. But nevertheless, my GP started to take care of me, and she said, well, try Advil and ibuprofen, I should say, which is what I did, and it did help me. And initially I would take probably about 1,200 milligrams, sometimes more. But over the years, I started it worked for a while, and I felt reasonably comfortable with it. Then I added Tylenol to the mix, and I needed more medication, and so it did help. However, she eventually sent me to another rheumatologist, and he suggested that I go on methotrexate. or Paquinel. And I had researched those meds and I didn't want to go on them. And he said, well, if you don't take them, you're going to get joint deformation. And the Advil will only help the pain. It won't help the progression of the disease. And so I said, well, I will take that chance and I will monitor myself, which is what I did. So anyway, until November 2017, I had flare-ups on and off. I managed reasonably well, but I can't say that I was really in the best shape. I think somebody without rheumatoid arthritis would feel a lot better than I did, but somehow you just sort of accept your lot in life over the years, and I kept on going and doing whatever I had to do. And I did everything from gardening to whatever. Sometimes with pain, my joints would flare up, and I kept on going. So in the meantime, the rheumatologist would say, well, I really think you should go on these medications. And I said, I really don't want to go on them. And as the flare-ups got worse, I started to feel that I was being boxed into a corner, that soon I won't have a choice and I may have to go on them. So one day I'm sitting very nicely in my chair and I'm watching TV, and I had this enormous nosebleed. And prior to that, I'd had indigestion. For about the past year, I'd had indigestion, heartburn. I was taking antacids. And the nosebleed really I started to get really scared and worried because I knew bleeding was one of the problems. I was taking anti-inflammatories. So I had the nosebleed. I managed to stop it. I didn't have a repeat. I got on my internet and I started to research. And before long, I came across your TED Talk. And that's what started my whole recovery. Your TED Talk was so exciting. I thought, I can't believe this is happening. I'm going to try this. So I listened to you, and then I came across all the people that you had mentioned, Dr. Clapper, all the researchers and the nutritionists, and I started to research, and they were all saying the same thing. And I said, I'm going to try this. So I immediately stopped coffee and alcohol. And that was before Christmas. And then just after Christmas, I stopped cold turkey, all meat products, eggs, cheese. I stopped it immediately. And within a couple of days, I noticed that my neck pain was gone, completely gone. And prior to that, I had tried so many different pillows, and I wasn't getting any relief. The medication wasn't giving me any relief. So that was the first thing I noticed. And then I started the juicing. And when I started the juicing, I noticed for the next day I had no pain in my hands. I felt like I woke up in the morning, I could move my fingers. It was unbelievable. Anyway, and from then on, I did the diet, and so I thought, well, I'm going to have to come off this medication. How am I going to do this? So I tried a few times, but I was still having pain. And then I decided that even if I have pain, I'm going to decrease it, and I'm going to keep on eating what I'm eating, what's good for me. And so over a 2-week period, I noticed a big difference. Gradually, I was able to take less and less ibuprofen, and my pain decreased. And up to this point, it is still getting better all the time. And this was my situation. I tried many times to come off the medication, but I would take it in the morning, I would take it at night, but sometimes I would forget to take it at night. And I would get up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom, and I could barely move. I felt ill, I felt unwell. The veins in the back of my hands would all be engorged. And it was just an awful feeling. I'd take the Advil and I'd go back to bed, and I'd get up in the morning and I'd feel okay. So I did have that feeling a little bit, but it got less and less. And over a 2-week period, I was able to come off the Advil, and I was so happy. And my pain level had decreased to the point where now I'm completely off. I haven't touched an Advil for weeks and weeks, and I'm eating the healthy diet, and I feel absolutely fantastic. That's my story.
It is unbelievably awesome. It's very, very unusual to have the condition for 17 years and never go on a disease-modifying drug. You're probably 1 in 100, maybe 1 in 200 or 300 people who, like statistics of that kind of approach. And what's fascinating is that you also never took any prednisone, right? You never went on that either. And that was a great blessing because what I seem to see is that people who take the prednisone for long periods have a much greater difficulty with being able to come off it and to get well, almost compared to any other drug. And so it's fortunate that you didn't go down that path. Now, I never went down that path, even though one time I walked in and requested this of my rheumatologist. I said, what about one of those steroid shots right in the butt, just to give me some pain relief for a couple of months so that I can get my knee working better, my everything, I'll be able to exercise more. And I had quite a case for having just a one-off prednisone shot. And he said, we don't do them in our office. He said, I just don't think it's a good strategy based on the science and based on, his own personal opinion on it. And thank God, because, we know that even a general steroid shot to the backside like that causes more leaky gut. I have my own personal views that are unscientifically substantiated, that it actually, prednisone deletes the mucosal lining of the intestinal wall and the colon in the same way it reduces mucus. In asthma patients, it, I believe, reduces the mucus that's present, that is the place where the bacteria need to live and to thrive, and thereby making it so difficult to recover. There's nowhere for bacteria to regrow. And so, your situation's unique from that viewpoint. Now, I also think that's fascinating in that I've had other clients who have taken painkillers as long as you have. They've done other drugs as well, though, but they've taken painkillers daily for as long as you have. And I've also seen them, when they've changed to this program, be able to get off their painkillers even after a few decades of taking them. And so I find that really interesting. So there's something about the painkillers that, although they cause more leaky gut, and we know that, the studies are really clear on that. I want to go through some in a second if we want to. Or I might just post the studies inside the show notes, which is probably better. So on our website, when you come to Angelika's podcast, you can just search by her name, Angelika, and you will find the show notes all about non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs and their problems that have been medically published. But somehow they don't seem to be as, I guess, catastrophic long-term. And so this is, more education for me as I continue to learn, and it supports what I've seen with other people. We don't want to be taking them on a daily basis because of their negative impacts on our healing. But you're a great example, and I have others to cite where even if you do, once you get things right with your diet, lifestyle, you can come off them without the enormous consequence that we can see with other drugs.
Yes, I was worried that perhaps I was addicted to them, but they say you can't be addicted to these anti-inflammatories, to ibuprofen. But then the other problem was there was so much new evidence out there that you would get problems with heart disease and heart attacks and strokes, and so that all weighed heavily on my mind as well. But my rheumatologist did think that I had a milder case of rheumatoid arthritis. He didn't think I had a really very serious case. My CRP eventually went down to about 11.7. But even 11.7, I felt that my body did not feel right. But just the end of March, I had my CRP checked, and it had come down to 4.7, and that's the lowest it's ever been. And I really felt the difference. I didn't feel my body was inflamed. I felt totally loose and relaxed and pain-free. I could go down the stairs one step after another instead of one step at a time. And I could get up at night and walk without being stiff. And so it, this diet really, really helped me, and it just did wonders. And now my husband also started to go he shared. He said, if you're going to eat like this, I'm going to eat like this. So that made a big difference, because now I could just cook one meal for the two of us. And his cholesterol went way down. My cholesterol went down as well. And he feels so much better. And so I've passed on the information to friends and family, and I've told them about the Paddison Program. And so, it's been great. And all my friends and family, everybody's been so supportive. People are always asking, how are you feeling? You look great. And I've also lost 28 pounds. And that makes me feel wonderful, because I was a little bit overweight. So now I'm just back to the weight I was in high school, and I feel great. So psychologically, it's just boosted my morale like you wouldn't believe. Plus, I don't have the depression, the feelings of depression. And there was always this thing in the back of my mind, I need to come off these drugs. I'm going to end up with a stroke or a heart attack or something one of these days, or a bleed in my gut.
Yes, exactly.
And now I'm off it, and I don't have that pressure anymore. And I feel great. It's just wonderful. I'm just so happy.
Yes, it isn't it. We could bask in the joy that we get from pain relief all day, every day, because the pain is so heavy and such a burden and so monotonous that, when it lifts its horrible pressure from our lives, then the feeling is elation at the highest level. It's euphoric, isn't it? Because
it is, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, yes, it is. It's something that, we could, I talk about, I'm rewriting my book at the moment, and I'm coming up with these nice little sentences, at least I think they're nice, and phrases about, wanting to be evangelical about some things in life. And I think that if there is anything to absolutely shout from the rooftops, it's that if we eat as many plants as possible, and if we take it to the extreme, we just eat all plants to give ourselves the best possible opportunity of, gut health and low inflammation levels, and, in that instance, a cruelty-free life to animals, and, a very low carbon footprint for the earth. I mean, what else would you not want to be excited about and scream about and tell everyone about, and quite frankly be annoying about and self-righteous about? Because this is the ultimate way to live a life for you, other animals, and the planet, to provide everyone with the kind of best outcome. And so, you feel good about yourself when you do this, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, it's mind-boggling. I'm still sometimes in disbelief. I think I've turned my whole life around because of this man, this wonderful person that I came across. And I've listened to all your podcasts, and I just couldn't get enough of them. Every time there's a new one, I'm right there. Or every time you send a message about some new thing, I'm right there and I'm reading it. And then I'm reading up all on Dr. McDougall's side. I went to his side and I listened to all his podcasts and all his information and all the research, and everything makes sense. And I wonder, why haven't I done this before? But I don't dwell on that too much. It's just the here and now. It's done. I've started it, and yesterday was yesterday. Today's today, and the future, well, hopefully it'll be bright.
Yeah, it will remain bright as long as you continue to do what you do. You've already sort of demonstrated that after just a few weeks, the small amount of drug, although it's a significant dose that you were taking, just a single anti-inflammatory drug that you were on that you don't need anymore and that your body feels amazing, it would be inconsistent with everything else I've ever seen should you suddenly develop symptoms again tomorrow or the next day, right?
Yes.
As long as you keep doing what you're doing, and every time that you start to feel some kind of little bit of symptoms, not quite as good as they were the day before, quickly get back onto the basic foods, make sure
Absolutely.
you resume your juicing, add a little bit more salad and exercise more. And then it will subside again. And so you've got this game to play now and forever, just like I do. I'm the same. If something's not quite perfect, I'm straight into for me, I don't normally go back to baseline foods, but I'll go to the gym. I'll just exercise a little more. I'll move my body a little more, and I just squash that thing till it's non-existent. You know what I mean? And so, we're always going to have some little bit of a 1%er thing that we need to watch out for here and there, and we've got to get rid of it and make it 0%ers.
Absolutely, and it's not a problem. I'm getting used to cooking this way. I'm looking at new, exciting ways of cooking, and I'm always finding out new ways of doing it. Today, I found out that you can slice sweet potatoes lengthwise in thick slices, put them in the toaster for several goes, and then you can spread bean spread or something on them, and that's a great snack that you can make quickly.
That's awesome.
And then I keep a little book, and every new recipe that I like that I've enjoyed making, I write into the book. So because I don't have a huge repertoire yet in the back of my mind, because I've cooked a certain way all those years. Yeah. So now I put it in a little book, and so what are we going to eat today, or what am I going to shop for? I have my little book for reference, and then I've got all the recipes in there, whether they're in a cookbook or online or written down, and that's a great help. That's fun. I've even baked a chocolate cake, a vegan chocolate cake with no oil, and it was totally delicious, and everybody loves it. So so I'm happy, and my husband loves everything I cook. Whether it's good or not, I'm not sure, but he's just happy, and he's so totally supportive. He's happy to see me slim and healthy and happy, and he says it couldn't be. He says at this stage of our lives to have this kind of a thing happening to us is wonderful. So it's great.
It is amazing.
I'm smiling.
Oh yes, so am I. Now is he also originally German, or is he Canadian?
Yes, he's German also.
Okay, great. Okay, nice. Because the Germans tend to love traditionally. I used to live with a big German guy. He's about 6'4". When I was in a share house in Australia before Melissa moved to Australia to live with me. I was in a share house, and I was with a big German guy, and his diet was atrocious. I mean, everything was fried in oils, and he was doing sausages all the time, and it was very, very fatty. So this must be, to turn a German vegan. I mean, you must have German friends that are looking at you sideways.
Well, you know what? I think we're pretty modern in what we eat. We eat pretty much international food. But I mean, there's certainly a lot of my mother's cooking that I kind of kept and still made. Although over the years we've cut back on meat and oils, and I always thought I was eating a reasonably good diet until I started this, and then I realized how much oil. It was always olive oil is good for you, so olive oil went into everything. Well, the other thing I wanted to say, many years ago, I was diagnosed with a latex allergy, and I went to an allergist, and he told me that I was allergic to lots and lots of vegetables. And I kind of laughed at the time because I thought, I'm eating all those things all the time. How could I be allergic to them? I didn't have any, I had the rheumatoid arthritis, but I didn't connect the two. And now I'm finding that I can't tolerate potatoes. The nightshade families don't agree with me. Nuts don't agree with me. And so there are a few foods that are in the same category as latex foods. So that's melons, bananas, avocados. I can't eat any of those. So it does limit me in some way when I cook.
Sure.
And so I'm just sort of wondering what I should do once I don't want to lose weight anymore, how I keep up my weight if I can't eat those like avocados and those nuts, those fatty foods.
So avocados and nuts are overkill when it comes to maintaining weight and even adding weight. Okay, so they are high in fat, and if we ate a lot of those each day, then, if you ask, friends or extended family who don't eat the sort of diet that you're on, they'll find that they're gaining weight by eating some of, too much of those foods because of their fat content. So, I found once I did an experiment where all I did was eat as much basmati rice as I possibly could with a tall glass of orange juice at every meal. So I was having what I call the mega miso meal. So that's basmati rice with miso paste, seaweed, and I was having my salad and then a huge amount, or like a big glass, 600 ml of orange juice. I gained something like 3 kilograms in 2 weeks just by having most of my meals just rice, orange juice, heaps of greens, and a little bit of other stuff, little bit of different, diversity with some different fruits, and probably had a little bit of my 2-grain mix and stuff. But mostly it was just a simple, repetitive diet like that. And, I was very surprised myself that I can put on 3 kilograms, and I've never carried much body fat, so it was muscle. But you have to go to the gym. Your muscles won't spontaneously build. They need to be challenged to have micro tears. When they get these micro tears, they then rebuild themselves and overcompensate for a future exercise of the same nature. So look, if you can eat rice, if you can have orange juice or another form of easy calories that don't cause you to have any kind of pain imbalance, then you'll find that your weight is fine.
Okay, it's not a problem yet, but this thought had occurred to me. What to do.
Yeah, start getting into a routine with some exercise. Start to add a little bit of resistance training. You might just want to get some light weights from a store like Walmart. We'll sell you a couple of weights for a few bucks. Just do some arm exercises, do some simple squats at home.
Yes, I have those, and I do that. Yeah.
And this is good.
Great.
This is good practice anyway. Even if you're not trying to add weight, it's just good practice just to add a little bit of resistance training. It's good for the bones, for strengthening them, and for avoiding osteoporosis, which is mostly, according to Dr. Clapper, mostly a weight-bearing or a lack of weight-bearing disease. We're just sitting around too much. We're not loading our bones enough and forcing that microscopic compression through the bones with some weight that causes them to then demand the nutrients that are needed to maintain good strength. He's got information. If people want more on that, they can just go to drclapper.com, and doctor is the whole word, not DR. And he's got training on that online. That's very cheap. So that'll keep your weight just fine, and everything else sounds like it's well under control. So I just want to highlight some of the we talked about putting on the show notes some of the dangers of non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs. The main categories are that they create gastrointestinal complications. So you get things like gastric ulcers, especially when they're used in parallel with prednisone. So prednisone plus non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs is the worst possible combination or pairing of rheumatoid drugs. And then also with the leaky gut, and the studies are very clear around that. In fact, in my guide for rheumatologists, I think I have something like 5 different studies that confirm that. And my own personal story with taking non-steroidal anti-inflammatories is that after a few months of being in a lot of pain, I went and took some of those and found them very effective at fast pain relief, but found that the effectiveness wore off after 3 weeks, and I was taking increasingly high dose to get the same amount of pain relief. And then after 3 weeks of taking them, I decided to stop taking them altogether because I thought something's not right here, and I wanted to find out where my pain levels were after stopping those drugs. Well, let's say I went into that 3-week period with my pain levels around a 5 out of 10. I came out of that 3-week period, my pain levels were an 8 out of 10, and that's where they stayed. I could not shake it down from 8. It was like in 3 weeks, I'd gone up that massive jump in pain, and I was locked in, and that's where I stayed. And of course, I didn't know any of the tools or ways of eating that I describe now. I was in a completely blind guessing game and eating the way that most people eat and looking for changes through supplements and things the way that most people do. Things like your glycosamine sulfate, chondroitin, and fish oils and stuff. I mean, that's the kind of 101 level that I had when I was starting out. So I didn't know what to do to offset that pain. So I hope this has been really great for people listening who are on these painkillers, who are going to be inspired by this. And, it's really great that you're able to have done this. And just before we started this recording, you also mentioned your age, which shocked me because you look very, very healthy and young. But would you be kind to share your age with people who are watching this?
I'm 73.
73, right. So, you could easily pass for at least a decade younger than that.
Thank you.
So, I think that this is also really encouraging for our viewers or listeners who are around your age bracket and think, if Angelika can do this, maybe I can as well. And we'll also note that you haven't done anything radical because non-steroidals are discretionary drugs. They're the sort of things that you take based on your own feelings day to day that aren't prescribed a certain dose and require rheumatologist approval. So, look, you haven't done anything radical. You've done something amazing with your eating, and then what you've been able to do was then for quite not radical whatsoever, just coming off these medications. But in terms of the profound impact on your life and your future health, that's where it's radical.
So one more thing I wanted to mention: my TSH was actually went up to over 5, and I started to get very weepy and depressed. So my doctor increased my thyroid medication to increased it slightly. And it gradually came down. It went down to 4.8 or something, and then to just over 3.7. And then when I just had it checked after I'd been on this diet for several weeks, it had gone down to 1.75.
1.75.
And that made me feel absolutely fantastic. I felt a lot calmer. My anxiety is gone. I'm just more relaxed. I sleep better. And I think it's all due to the fact that I'm now eating this healthy diet, and the weight loss also.
Yeah, that's
I think
sensational.
has affected this. So when I see my doctor again in end of June, I'm going to see if perhaps she can drop the thyroxine, or perhaps I can come off it. So we'll have to see. But I'm very happy about that, and that's the only medication I take. Other than that, I'm very lucky not to be taking anything else.
Yeah.
So I'm very happy to be in relatively good health in spite of having the rheumatoid arthritis all those years. So I consider myself very fortunate.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned, I want to comment on the thyroid medication and the thyroid markers in just a moment. But first of all, you mentioned that your rheumatologist earlier, about halfway through our call, said that he didn't think you had a very particular bad case of rheumatoid arthritis. And yet, you said you had an 89 C-reactive protein. So there's an inconsistency there. Your marker at the start was enormously high. You had pains throughout your body. So let's not dismiss what you've achieved as something that can only be done by people who have a small amount of one finger problem. You were throughout your body except for just a couple of major joints. So let's not allow that to be just dismissed. And then second of all, we do see thyroid markers improve with people who have hypothyroidism, not in all cases, but in enough cases for it to be exciting. And if anyone has that condition, should certainly be having their markers checked and see if they can improve by following this program. So that's super exciting, especially how much your numbers came down. So is that the lowest that your thyroid markers have ever been?
Yes, that's the lowest they've ever been. Yeah.
Right. So you've got the lowest C-reactive protein, and you've got the lowest thyroid markers, and you've got the lowest pain that you've had.
Yes, absolutely.
But the most happiness.
Oh, absolutely. Can't compare. I'm just thrilled, over the moon.
Awesome. Okay.
And so I've got all the reasons to keep this going, because I don't want to ever feel sick again like that with my joints and feeling unwell. And so I've got, I've got the motivation to keep me going on this. And really, people say, oh, I couldn't do that. But you know what? If you don't want to have pain, you will do it.
Yeah.
You will do it. Yeah.
It always comes back to that, the pain. The pain's a great motivator.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yes, I'm very, very happy about it. Very happy.
Yes.
And thanks again so much. I can't thank you enough. I wish I could go and hug you.
Well, maybe we'll get to one day. What part of Canada are you in?
I'm just about an hour and a half east of Toronto.
Okay.
I used to live in Toronto, but we've retired to the country where we had a cottage, which we tore down a couple of years ago, and we built our dream house.
Oh,
so that's where we live now. And I paint, and I have a little artist studio here. And I'm quite happy living out here now.
Oh, that's lovely. That's lovely. Well, great. Well, if I get to Toronto, which I would love to, and come up and maybe give a seminar, then given that you told me that you open my emails with a frantic pace, then I think you'll find out about when it's happening, and we may be able to meet.
For sure.
Okay. Okay, well, lovely to chat with you. Really, really great to hear your progress, and please keep me updated as you continue to do well down the track.
I will. Thank you so much, Clint. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.